Hey friends, welcome back to another video. My name's Emma Fave, and what's your name?
Miles.
Miles. And today is a continuation of our beginners drills video that we did last week with our floral strokes using different brushes. Only today I'm going to show you how to put all those strokes together to make very simple florals. So let's jump in and get started.
Let's
Get started. Hey friends, so last week I did a drills video showing you all the basic strokes on how to achieve loose florals with different shaped brushes. We had a dagger, we had a round brush, we had our filbert, and we had a flat wash brush. And so today I thought I'd show you how to put those strokes into practice by doing a little flower arrangement using all of the brushes. So that's what I want to do. We are going to be painting in my Etcher Lab cold press watercolor sketchbook. I have my brushes and then I have my Shinhan paints and we're ready to go. So when you're I don't want to focus too much on composition for this just because I do have other videos on composition. I just want to put into practice making the flowers out of the strokes that I taught you from our last video. So let's start, and we're just going to have them all kind of clustered together, kind of like a bouquet. So let's start with the rose with our round brush, which is kind of like the most basic watercolor loose floral that I started out with, and we'll go from there. So I'm just going to mix up a little bit of quinacridone rose and some yellow to get this kind of corally color. And I'm just going to start here, not right in the middle, just slightly off to the side. So remember our loose little C curves with the tip of our brush and really light pressure to get these kind of rounded, tightly rounded shapes. And then remember, I'm going to wash off my brush just a little bit to make it a bit lighter. And I'm going to start to apply a bit more pressure with these strokes going around in a circle. And if you remember, the key to making this look a little bit more realistic, even though we're doing loose, is having these curves touching another curve. You want to leave a little bit of white space so you don't have like one big kind of blob, but you don't want any kind of floating like this. You don't want any floating petals where they're not touching another petal somewhere else. So I try and have them a bit thicker, touching another petal somewhere else, just so it doesn't look like they're floating and not attached. It tends to look weird that way. And I'm just gonna keep on adding a little bit of water to my brush because it's getting a bit dry, and it also lightens up the color a bit. I'm just kind of going around. Like that. Just doing these little curves. Again, leaving that white space, but making sure it's touching other areas like that. Okay, and you can make them a little bit shorter and fatter as you get closer to the edge. And there's our rose. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. And then what I like to do is go back into that center. It's drying really fast in here. It's very dry in my office today, hot and dry. This isn't even the best example of a rose, but it's fine. I like to go back in. I'm just wetting it up a little bit with a little bit more darker color, especially right to the center, just to darken it up in the center a bit. It gives it a little bit more depth so it doesn't look too flat, and just kind of adding a little bit of the darkness around like that. Okay. And there's our rose. So then from our rose, let's go to kind of that not maybe a daisy-ish kind of flower with our filbert brush. But first, what I'm going to do with my round brush is I'm just going to mark out the center. So I'm just going to grab some yellow, and we're going to do two daisies. We're going to do one that's kind of like full on facing us. So I'm just going to mark out a little yellow center like that. And then I'm going to do a flatter oval shape, so we'll have a different perspective. Now this bouquet or arrangement is not going to be totally flowing well just because I'm trying to show you each flower individually, but kind of together. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to take my size 6 filbert. I'm going to take a little bit of indigo because a daisy is a white flower. It has white petals, but everything that you paint that is white has some sort of undertone to it. So I'm going to use indigo for this, so it has a slight blue undertone. And remember, instead of using it flat, you can get nice big flat rounded petals that way, but this way, because the daisy petals are thinner, I'm going to go on the side of my brush like this. And I'm just going to lift when I get closer to the center. So pressure, heavier pressure, and then light pressure as I get closer to the center. I'm just going to curve it while I go. Like this. Now you can obviously do this with a round brush too, but there's something about a filbert that really kind of helps with that rounded shape. Just slightly on an angle, like that. And just always curve your petals so it gives your flower movement. And they don't all have to be going the same way. It doesn't have to be a perfect flower. And sometimes there's extra spaces, you know, not all the petals are there. Like that. Okay, so we went around for that one. This one's going to be a bit more flat. With like a side view. So it's going to be actually longer on this side and then kind of curving in. And then curving in on this side. And then little short kind of stumpy petals on this side that you don't really see too much. Okay. Like so. You know what? Let's just do another one that's like a side view, like it's barely bloomed. Like it's a little bud kind of starting, you know? So when the little petals are kind of going upwards, and then we'll have a bit of greenery at the bottom there. Okay, just because I like to work in threes. So there's a rose and there's some daisies. Now, obviously we're gonna do more. I just need that to dry first. Okay, so we have rose, daisies, and then remember the little flowers that we were doing with our dagger brush that were a lot of fun, like the two-tone. Let's just get that in there too, because why not? I'm going to do them down here, I think. So two-tone flowers. Let's do kind of like a purple and a blue because I think that would look really nice. I'm trying to think of which purpley blue I want to use. Let's do, first I'm just going to wet up some colors. Let's do the back, this kind of lavender color. And then the tip, this blue. And let's hope that works. Okay, so remember the curved side down, you're going to place your tip down first, and then you're just moving the back around. I had a lot of water on it, so it's kind of all moving around, but that's okay. You can always just dab it on your paper towel. That kind of missing the two-tone just because there was a lot of water. That's okay. A bit more of the lavender, a bit more of this blue. Still looks pretty. That. Move in the back around like that. Okay, you can do it like that. Let's do it again. That. I feel like it needs 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can do the centers later. Okay, let's do it one more time. Of course, my dog's going crazy downstairs. What else is new? Let's do one more down here just because, again, I like to work in threes. This gives you some practice. You could just fill up your page with florals. Now, if you want it to go like it to be a nice composition, I would obviously recommend, you know, coming up with a cohesive color palette. I do have some videos on that, to like coming up with a composition where things flow better. But today I just wanted to kind of put into practice some of the things that I showed you last time. So if it looks a little wonky, that's why. Okay, so we have that flower, and then let's do the other one using our flat brush, which is like my favorite. I'm gonna use like a pink because I love pink. Okay, so we have our flat brush, and there's two kinds of flowers that I really like doing with it. There's one that looks kind of like more like a poppy or an anemone. So I'm going to start with my brush on an angle. So just one corner touches down like that. And then I like to do 2 strokes for one petal, kind of like that. Then I'll go around like that. I'm going to make some shorter on the side, just like it's a different perspective of this flower. Shorter on one side, that helps. Hard to do them upside down. Like that. I like to do flowers like this. Just kind of filling it in just to make it look a little bit more even. But I love the way those flowers look. We could do maybe one that hasn't fully bloomed yet. We can just do a couple petals. Like I think I showed you in the drills. Okay, and I also like to put it other places. So maybe I'll do one up here. Using that side point, like that. Okay. And then let's do some of our leaves. I'll show you some of the leaves that we can do with our dagger, but mostly I like to do my leaves with a round brush. So let's do some of the dagger leaves over here. I'm just gonna use, again, the curved side down, and I'm just gonna press down, drag a bit, that, and then come back the other way, and you get that kind of like perfect rose leaf shape almost. Again, that, moving that back side around, like so. You can even grab a little bit of darker green, tap it in there, that. Try again. That. Or you can just use the tip to kind of draw it out, whatever you like. And I'm just going to fill up some of these areas with a little bit of green, just so it kind of flows a bit better together. Maybe I can do like a eucalyptus kind of, that's a lot of blue, a eucalyptus kind of leaf. So I just mix a little bit of blue with green, a little bit of purple too I like to put in there. Just kind of tones it down, raise it up a bit more blue. I'll do like a little eucalyptus leaf here, or yeah, eucalyptus leaf. So I'm going to just draw out a stem, and then I'll do my rounded kind of leaf with the dagger. Okay. You can always, again, just use the tip to kind of draw out any smaller shapes if you want, or refine it. Like that. Let's do another one. I'm going to do one up here. That. And then maybe one more over here. It's almost like clover shaped leaf petals. Okay. There we go. Now let's take our round brush and do some more kind of detailed leaves in there. And then we'll get some details on our actual flowers. Okay, so I'm going to grab my green. I want to do stem coming from here, maybe a little bit of a green bottom under it. They look a little bit like anemones. And then some greenery. Our daisy's going to have some greenery. This what side view one has like a little bulb kind of underneath. Then its stem. We'll just fill this in with a little bit of leaf greenery there, just so it's not so kind of standing alone. A little stem over here for this daisy. One kind of behind there. You can just throw in a leaf over here. Just kind of putting it, just filling up the area. That's one thing, like when you are doing a composition, which I do cover in other videos, you don't want a lot of white space in between flowers so they look very separate. These little areas you just kind of want to fill in with leaves. You don't want this like long stem with a bunch of white space kind of floating around it. It just tends to look a little odd. So try and keep, like, if I do a stem like this, I'm not going to put the leaf all the way back here like that. See how it's so disconnected looking? So I have one here. I'm just going to bring another one right up close. Just helps fill it in a little bit better. Makes it look fuller. See the difference? Like that. Okay. And then for the detail on some of the flowers, especially the daisies, because the daisies are just standing there alone, let's fill in the center with some yellow. Then I like to take some yellow ochre, which is a darker yellow, and I'll just kind of tap around the bottom of one side. And this creates a little bit of depth for your daisy. See that? Already it looks like it's popping out a bit more. And then for our pink flowers, we need a center, but this is a little bit wet, so let me just dry it really quickly first. Okay, and because these ones are more like anemones, we're gonna have a darker center, so I'm just gonna grab some indigo. And I just do like a really rough kind of circle or oval shape. And then these tiny little lines coming off of it and little dots at the top. Like so. Okay, and if your flower's on a tilted kind of perspective, the shorter side of petals, the lines are going to be shorter and the dots are going to be closer to that center. And then the longer side, it just gives it a little bit more of a realistic perspective. That. Okay. And then these ones, I mean, you can really choose. I don't know what kind of flower they are, but you could always just choose whatever type of middle you want for it. Like so, and there's so much more detail you can put into these. Really up to you how you want to go about it all. But this is just kind of playing around and putting into practice what we learned last time. And really, I just encourage you to start, when you do your drills, do the drills that I showed you in our last video, and then just practice filling up a page. It doesn't have to flow well. It doesn't have to, be in a masterpiece or some sort of amazing composition. Just play around with all the shapes with your brushes, what you've learned, and you'll end up learning so much. So just play around all your brushes. Here I'm just gonna do like little sprigs of leaves, tiny little stems, change it up, just play and practice. And for more detail on some of these flowers, like I've done multiple videos on daisies where there's a bit more detail to them to really make them pop because they're looking a little bit flat. Like you can just add a little bit, shadow and just a little bit of extra things to them to make them really kind of stand out. But that's about it for the basics. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on all my other platforms for tons more content. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.